Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch with myself, Kate Tracy, alongside Dave Young and Andrew Mount to look ahead to the action on ITV on Saturday from Sandown and Haydock. Now, we've just had a quick check back through the results properly from last weekend. I can barely remember what happened last weekend. I was at York, great time, really recommend. If you want to go to any racecourse, go to York Racecourse. They just do everything right. And of course, Archivist kicked the lads off to the perfect start. He was well backed as we expected as well. That price did look big earlier on in the day, but eventually sent off as the 4-6 favourite SP in the end, but he won like a good thing up at York. He did pick up some place money as well. Ferris, he finished third. He was backed into 9-4. And Pocklington also finished second then and also was well supported 5-2. There were some other place efforts as well on the day, but I can't really remember what they were, to be honest. But well done, lads. Hopefully more winners, though, all the same. And we could start.
Let's just be honest, we're a bit rubbish, but we tried.
But we tried. That's what people want to hear when we're tipping up is we tried. No, you two have been in flying form for a very long time, so we can have like a slightly quieter weekend. Last weekend when we're focusing on the all-weather. So we're back to the turf now this weekend. Sandown, the 150 of the Group 3 Coral Charge, 3-year-olds and over 5 furlongs. 7-2 the field in this one, Dave. So we've got plenty to go at.
We do have plenty to go at, yeah, and it looks a really competitive race, doesn't it? I wanted a nice, easy Archivist sort of Saturday where just every race was obvious. But we've got one of them in the last, haven't we, that we don't even need to preview. We've also got one at Haydock we don't really need to preview either. So of the 7 races, there's only 5 we need to figure out. This is definitely a race, especially over 5 furlongs at a place like Sandown. You can make bits of cases for lots of horses in it for various reasons, but then you can also put down quite a lot of them as well. So look, I found it a really tricky race to solve. I respect so many chances in here, but I was more looking at the fact the last 4 winners were 5-year-olds, the 2 prior were 3-year-olds. When I'd whittled down my shortlist, the 3 that really sat at the top of them were Kerdos, Arisaig and West Acre, but it was the former and the latter that I was more drawn to. As much as Arisaig was very good at Royal Ascot and has course and distance winning form, I just don't think even on the sort of allowance ratings and things like that as well that she's up to winning this. So I was more dismissive of that than I think the market's been. But West Acre's a horse that, I mean, he's a very good horse on his day, but he just doesn't seem to be doing it anymore. They both came from that King Charles Stakes at Ascot. When I watched the race back over and over again, I just can't really get away with how well Kerdos ran on the far side. It was the first time under Christophe Soumillon. I do rate him as a jockey for all that I think sometimes when he's riding over here, there will be jockeys that are better suited to the tracks. But Kerdos is a bit of a classic sprinter, isn't he? A bit of a head case, got really unruly before the race. And as much as it's probably a negative, you don't really want the horses to be doing that pre-race because they're exhausting some energy. You don't mind it so much with sprinters, do you? Because you think, well, you want to see him on springs. And he did run really well. It was an RPR last time, I think, of 114, which puts him back in the realms of what he's done in the past. And while there are some like good horses in it, when you look at sort of weight-adjusted ratings, he comes out right near the top. The only one that beats him really is West Acre, but he gets the weight for age allowance. If it was another type of race, he would probably be £2 wrong. So I think, in my opinion, Kerdos comes out on top on the ratings. I think his run last time out is the best recent piece of form that's in here for the entire field. Because he's a bit quirky and a bit crazy before his races, I'd always be tempered with how I could be or how enthusiastic I could be about him. But the problem with him is, when he was that quirky at Ascot, if it was enough to put you off, you'd probably be annoyed because he's come 5th at 66-1 in a race where he's run really well after. So I would definitely side with Kerdos in this race. Be one of these that if you were scaling it on like a 1-star to a 5-star bet, he'd never be higher than a 1-star bet. But it's a tricky race to solve. I just think that he probably is the most obvious answer.
Kerdos then, yeah, 9-2 top price. I can see him from 11-2 as well. Kieran's actually been riding out there at Clive Cox's throughout the summer as his little summer job, and I'm pretty sure he's ridden this horse as well. So yeah, blame him if it all goes Pete Tong. But yeah, Clive Cox form is really starting to come to the boil now, isn't it? Just started prior to Ascot, loads of good runs at Ascot itself, and that's continued subsequently as well. Andrew, Coral Charge, 5 furlong Sandown. We know this is a pretty unique course and track that we have to go at.
Used to be one of my favourite course and distances when you went through a spell. All you did was back stall 1 and stall 2 blind and do the reverse forecast. You make a fortune, but then they kind of broke up the ground on the inside. I suspect they used one of the earthquake type machine that they used at Chepstow many years ago to sort of decompact the ground, and they used that at Lingfield as well on the turf course. Yeah, that's right.
I never knew that.
Yeah, sort of. They just kind of like, because it had become so compacted, they kind of decompacted it and swung the bar to the other way. So it's kind of been all over the shop, and that sort of store one, store two blind thing has not been a good angle for a while now. But interesting stat with this race, just backing horses who finished first or second last time out would have got you 8 of the last 10 winners. One of the blank years was in 2020, which was COVID affected, when a lot of horses perhaps hadn't had a prep race or had been running on the all-weather when they needed turf, because those early post-COVID meetings were mostly at like Newcastle and Wolverhampton. So if you sort of chuck that 2020 year out, it's like 8 from 9 who finished first or second last time out. Last year there was one qualifier that finished third. So that's an interesting angle to look at, because it throws up only about 4 runners, including She's Quality, who's done well since the headgear was added. She had blinkers on the last 4 starts, a win, a couple of seconds. They're down the field in Group 1 company at the Curragh behind Bradsell. They put the cheek pieces back on today. She's only won them once before, finishing 6th of 9 at Cork, albeit on heavy ground, being a long way. So it'll be interesting to see how she reacts to those. But she's not for me at 7-2. Dave's made a good case for Kerdos. Rumstar is one we talked about a lot on this podcast as the wingman. I think, as you coined him, when that he's got a fantastic record when he's drawn on the outside of the field. So, give him like, store 1 of 12 or 12 of 12 at Newmarket, but anywhere in the middle doesn't seem to run so well. So still 6 of 11 isn't ideal for him on that theory. Adrestia, who won at Royal Ascot, has got a chance, of course, and distance winner as well. So clearly suited by a stiff 5. Balmoral Ladies, drawn 11. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think her strong pace, and because what's interesting about her, she ran in Group 1 company at Royal Ascot behind American Affair. She was 9th of 20 at 50-1, and doing really well to make ground up the far side rail when all the action was stand side of centre. Queen All Star was given a big sort of big up by Jack Shannon on Nick Luck's podcast on Thursday morning, saying that he didn't see how she could be 20-1, and she isn't now, she's 14s. But she's a course and distance winner who's won 3 of her 4 starts. She's 2 from 2 over this 5 furlong trip. She's only rated 90, but according to that podcast, the owner was keen to get some black type and says there aren't many opportunities for sort of 3-year-old 5 furlong horses to do so. So she'd be of interest. And Saratoga Special is the other qualifier on the angle as well. So I'm going to go against the sort of like first and second last time out stacks and just go with Balmoral Lady, because I do like the fact that she made ground on the wrong part of the track in Group 1 company at Royal Ascot. She's back down in grade. She's won at enlisted company at Haydock on a penultimate start. Dropping back to Group 3 will suit, and hopefully they go out the absolute clappers and that outside draw won't be a problem.
Yeah, interesting on the draw front, isn't it? The fact that, as you say, you used to just think those low rail draws were the way to go, but that has now switched, well, not switched, but leveled off somewhat. 11 is still number for Balmoral Lady, currently at 9-1 in the Group 3 5 furlong sprint. Right, let's move up to Haydock now for the 205, a handicap for the 3-year-olds over a mile 6. 4-1 the field in this one, so again, Dave, pretty open affair.
It is an open affair, yeah. And we've got a William Haggis handicap debutant in there in Valiancy, who I mentioned it before, still haven't got the numbers for it. It's probably remiss of me to do that. But like William Haggis handicap debutants, they typically do quite well. This race is interesting, though, because Valiancy beat Polestar, or was maybe half a length behind Polestar in a race where I think he should have beaten him. Polestar made his handicap debut last time off of 82 against some of the horses that are in here. So Many Men won that race. I think Novelista was maybe back in second after hanging a little bit, but it just looks to me with that Polestar, Novelista and Many Men line of form, and then with Valency probably being better than Polestar was the time before, I wanted it to basically answer whether Valiancy would be miles better than all of the ones that ran that handicap, or whether it means that Valiancy was vulnerable at the front of the market. And I keep watching the replay of how Polestar ran last time out, and I can't excuse how poorly he did run. So it makes me feel like maybe all of that form line could be ropey to go at. But Valiancy's only had those 3 starts. It was a very short prize winner last time out, taking stepping stones. You'd imagine that they've saved a bit for this handicap debut. 80 looks like a nice enough mark, so you can see why he's at the front of the market. But the one that I think I might take a bit of a swing on, and it could end up being a swing and a miss, but it's Prince of Seas, who's been gelded since his 2 runs this season. Now, the 2 runs that he had, first time up it was at Epsom, which is a track we know that some horses don't particularly handle. Then at Lingfield he was quite unbalanced there, which again is another track that some horses don't handle. I mean, they've got quite harsh of him for not handling the track, considering they've gelded him after. But there must be something to do with his attitude as well that's caused the issue to decide that that's the route that they want to go down. You go back, and it is going back a little bit, and maybe it's because Sandown's on the ITV card that I'm looking at this with a bit more excitement. But his Sandown maiden win at the back end of last year, September, he went miles clear towards the end, or he looked like he had a horse that had loads of energy on there. He was hanging a little bit then, but it was only his second start. He got an 87 RPR back then, and I think back then I had him pinned down as a horse that he might be the type that in these stay-in races, he might be able to make into sort of pattern company. So the fact that he's in a handicap here off of 94, stepping up to that 1 mile 6 as well, which pedigree would suggest is going to suit him, I thought he was really, really interesting. And it was interesting as well last year when he did win that Sandown maiden. He'd had I think his debut was made in August, and then that race was in September. So he was late to come out. They've had a couple of runs relatively quick together this season on very testing tracks in deep enough company. And then now when he's been stepped all the way up to 1 mile 6 after being gelded, for this handicap, it looks like, I don't know, they expect that he could probably go well off a mark of 94. Like I said, I respect Valiancy, but the line of form that goes through him brings in Valiancy, Many Men, Novelista, and Polestar. You'd be struggling to split those. So rather than trying to work at which one of those 4 wins, I'm just dismissing them and hoping that the geldings fixed Prince of Seas and a pretty simple track that is Haydock should offer him no problems. And I think he's better than 94. So is he 10 to 1 top price? And we've got 10 runners in here. Someone's surely offering one firm's offering 4 places, but still 10 to 1 top price, 3 places up for grabs looks all right to me.
Yeah, for the top weight then in here, horse number 1, Prince of the Seas, running off a mark of 94, first time gelding operation, and at 10 to 1 as well for Dave. Andrew.
Yeah, I thought the key race was that Doncaster race won by Many Men. And of course, that was on the round course at Doncaster. So on anything other than very soft ground, it's an advantage to come from off the pace. Many Men came from midfield that day. Novelista, the runner-up, came from midfield. Pantile Warrior, the third, towards rear. Best of those who raced prominently was Way the Stars, who was in second place behind the front runner Scarlet Moon in the early stages. And he's come out and absolutely bolted up at Goodwood next time by 7.5 lengths, albeit when the 6 to 5 on favourite. Now, you go back further down that field, you have Polestar in 6. I thought Polestar did really well, given his prominent early position. The fact that when he sort of dropped away, became outpaced, he then got sandwiched. Says short of room 2 furlong out. I thought that was a bit sort of underplaying it by the Racing Post. I thought he was, sort of stopped in his tracks and did well to sort of rally and finish 6, not beating a million miles. And I think last year we talked about trainers in this race. I think Dave tipped the winner, Align the Stars, trained by Charlie Johnson, sort of citing the fact that the Johnson Yard had a good record in this race. And I suggested that Charlie Johnson and Mark Johnson aren't the same person, and that might not be continued, but I was wrong, he was right. And if you look at this, the 8 runnings of this race, 6 of them have been won by either the Johnson Yard or William Haggis. I mean, William Haggis is 3 from 5. He's had a 4th, and the other one was 13th. So, obviously that's a sort of, a strong pointer to valiancy. But I'm going to go with that Doncaster form. The 2 horses who were prominent, who ran well, so Way the Stars, 4th, who then came out to win at Goodwood, and Polestar. So both sort of, decent each way prices, 8 to 1 and 12 to 1. I'll play each way on that pair.
Okay, there you go then. Each way about the pair of those 2. Interesting on the trainer records, though, for this particular contest. Right, the 225 now at Sandown. The Coral Challenge, another handicap, 3-year-olds and over a mile. The betting has been flip-flopping between Treasure Time and Greek Order all morning here. 7 to 1 bar about the remainder. So, again, we're getting loads of horses that we're seeing coming out of Royal Ascot, Dave, coming into this one. Are you siding with any of those, or Treasure Time on his reappearance?
Well, that's the thing. The reappearance of Treasure Time terrifies me, I'll be honest. I think it's another horse, like same as the Prince of the Season, the last race, like 94, I think underrates what this horse has shown on potential in the past. But he is a bit of a horse that maybe is a bit sort of like a potentially type horse rather than actually substance. And when you go back to like his debut before he got gelded, he was well beaten. I mean, he was behind Iberian, so it was a good novice that he went in to begin with. His novice after that gelded and a bit of a break, he got beat, and then he had a break coming into the start of last season where he got beat. Then he was beaten favourite. Then he finally won a race, which was in and around this time of year. So it might be less to do with the reappearance. It might be the time of year stuff, but I don't know who would really want to be smashing into him at a short price. I want to even say like single figures in a race like this, because it looks like it's pretty deep race, but it's 64k up for grabs, isn't it? William Haggas doesn't particularly waste too many darts, and I keep saying about how good he is with handicappers, even though this one isn't a debutant. So I kind of see him towards the front, and I can see the money for Greek Order as well with Ryan Moore up top, because Ryan Moore at Sandown, he knows it very well, doesn't he? But the one that I was most interested in, I feel like even at the prices, you probably could do a little bit bigger, but the bookmakers don't listen to me, do they? Is Classic, who is one win from 6 starts at Sandown, but he's had a couple of seconds here too. That was his best run last time out in June when he was behind Urban Lion. Now, he was favourite that day. Ryan Moore was riding, obviously. I guess he would have had potentially the choice to ride the horse again in here, but he sided with Greek Order instead. But I don't really feel like he did too much wrong in getting beat, and I think he's maybe being discredited with the fact that he's got a 2 next to his name rather than a 1. Handicap has left him alone for it, which I think's like more than fair. But that was his 3rd run this season since being gelded, and all 3 of those runs have been pretty solid. He was 3rd first time up, only beating a length and a half. He was 4th the time after, only beating a few lengths, and then that 2nd here in a small enough field. I think he'll be suited to having more horses being around him. He's got that all right form that's here. So he was one I just thought, especially from an each way perspective in this race, where Treasure Time, I'm not so sure that the layouts are positive for him, even though people might think that he's been weighted with. And some of those ones that did run at Royal Ascot, you know, maybe they've left their race behind, a little bit behind there. I just thought the top price, 15-2 about him with 4 places up for grabs, looked a bit generous. He feels like a bit of one of those free each way swings because he runs Sandown well. So while he might not be the winner of the race, I think I can see him in the frame, and, you know, he just needs to get a little bit of luck in running, and he could actually win this.
15-2 then about Classic course number 10 on your race card with that course winning form to his name as well. Yeah, he's a tricky horse, isn't he, in terms of so much expectation. Obviously with that name as well, probably didn't help him, but he is a very good horse and looks well enough treated now as well. Andrew?
Yeah, there's quirky stats associated with this race, the Coral Challenge. British sires have done really well. 7 of the last 10 winners from 44 bets, plus £4.20 to a £1 level stake. The 3 blank years, the last blank year was 2019, when the sole qualifier was 2nd at 12-1. 2018, there was no winner, but a 9-1 second. And in 2017, the 2 qualifiers were 14-1 fourth and a 20-1 shot who was out of the frame. So that's quite an interesting stat, and that points to both the front 2 in the betting, Treasure Time and Greek Order. I preferred Treasure Time of the pair, given the trainer, and I think he's done well in this race previously as well. But the one I can't resist a small bet on is Arisaig for Charlie Johnson, who I've got on my shortlist for a race at Glorious Goodwood, where she won last year. She's had 2 runs at Goodwood, so that win and a listed 5th when I think Matty tipped her up in May this year, when she's met all the trouble going and finished less than 2 lengths behind the winner Crimson Advocate. Now, those 2 Goodwood runs aside, her only other run right-handed came at Kempton, when she won a fillies novice contest a couple of years ago. So I don't think straight tracks are necessarily ideal for her, particularly if they don't go with the strong pace that she needs. And when she was 2nd at Ascot 2 runs ago, very well back, beating 3/4 of a length, 6 runners was no good for her, so didn't get the pace that she needed. And last time out at Ascot, Royal Ascot, she's finished 14th of 23 in the Kensington Palace. She's done 2nd best of her group, though, those to race towards the far side. So that was a pretty good effort given the draw. So I think on a right-handed track, I've not sort of checked the pace situation out for this race so far. But as long as there's a decent gallop on, I thought Arisaig each way could be the way to go. But of those at the head of the market, I just prefer Treasure Time.
Okay, those are the head of market, Treasure Time, but Arisaig at 14-1 would not be a bad way to play this race either. You know, when you're talking about the trends for this race, I mean, first and foremost, I did not expect you to come there with the quirky one for the British sires. I swear that's a first for me to have heard you saying that for a trend, but I respect it all the same.
Might just be coincidence, but it's just an interesting quirk to keep an eye on.
Oh, I love a quirky trend. I really do. The one that I thought you were going to focus in on was the last time out run in the Royal Hunt Cup. That's what I thought you were going to go down.
I've not heard that one. I'll have to check that out.
No, this is only me going into this and the last, 8 renewals of this race. And you go back into it, and 4 of the past 5 winners of this finished mid-division or better in the Royal Hunt Cup prior to this. So you look at Perotto. In 2023, he was 10th in the Royal Hunt Cup for winning this. Sinjari, 2022, he was 5th in the Royal Hunt Cup. Magical Morning, who won it in 21, was 8th of 30 in the Royal Hunt Cup. And Montatham in 2020 finished 2nd in the Royal Hunt Cup. So we've got 3 horses here who ran in the Royal Hunt Cup prior to this. Now, those are Galeron, High Royal, and Greek Order.
Right.
Of those
You've
three,
outstacked me there, Kate. Big time.
no, I haven't even attempted. This is the one race I've gone into the stats with, so this gives me the perfect excuse to. It probably will not help me, but it means I'm taking you on though with Greek Order. I want to keep High Royal on side as well, but Greek Order probably not the right age. I'm guessing we're trying to focus more in on the 4-year-old stats. 4 of the last 8 winners of this being of that age. He is a 5-year-old though, but I do like Greek Order because of course he did best of those in the Royal Hunt Cup. He finished 4th, beaten a length and a half behind My Cloud. On his return to Britain after his stint in America, he was actually brought back for $110,000. And that was just a solid effort. He moved into the race really well, couldn't quite match the winner. Just looked like a run he'd improve on. So I hoped Greek Order would get the best for a few of these. I'm also going to keep High Royal on side as well, though, just because of that Royal Hunt Cup basis. So there you go. Right.
Oh, nice one. Yeah, just go back to
May as well offer
2020.
something at some point in this, and I had a lot of time this morning to go through it, so it was ideal.
Yeah,
We will see.
I was gonna, yeah, since 2020, it's 4 from 19 for horses who prepped in the Royal Hunt Cup. You make a small profit backing those blind, and then you look where they finished last time out. Yeah, they were all beaten in the Royal Hunt Cup. Sort of finishing, the winners finished 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 10th.
Yeah, mid-division to better, I'm going with, without winning, as a general overview. That's the way I've summarized it in my head. But there you go. There's the actual stats and trends that Andrew Mount is putting towards what I've just said anyway, with facts and figures. So thank you for that and for backing up as well. Right, we better head to Haydock now for the 240, the Group 2 Lancashire Oaks 3-year-olds and over a mile 4. Dave, I get a funny feeling this is one of the races you felt was pretty easy to solve.
Yeah, it's too easy, isn't it? Estrange was so impressive last time out. Andrew and Matty had like no reservations about the ground being a little bit quick, which is what I did have a reservation on. But we talked about it in the preview there about, the trainer's not going to run the horse if they don't believe the ground's going to suit. And boy, did the ground not cause any problems to her. She looks worldly, didn't she? She looks like the type of horse that we could be talking about as like an archetype and all those types of things. So she's got an absolute gift of a race, isn't she? I don't see any way how she possibly gets beat. And obviously she's priced accordingly, isn't she? As short as 1 to 4. She's top price 3 to 10, so 130 on. I was looking at any way in on this race because if Scenic's like a standout second in this race as well, so you would say it's as obvious is that Estrange will win. It's just as obvious that Scenic will come second. The forecast, I think the top price one I can find pays 1.55, so about 8 to 15.
Wow.
It still doesn't exactly tempt us in, does it? So I think this is the type of race where you just sit back and, well, those that have got back on short to anti-post and got a bit of a price about Estrange, well done. Those that haven't, just sit back and enjoy a very good racehorse winning another very good race. But it's as simple as that, really. It's quite boring. There's a couple of horses that we're running for some decent prize money, which is nice for them, but it's just going to be a cakewalk for Estrange, I think. I suppose tactically, because there is only 2 horses in the race, maybe that'll be a bit different, but she honestly was like out of this earth when she won last time. So I just think that she's just can't get beat, can she?
She's so cool. She's so straightforward, and she's just, I just love everything about this filly. So she is a very short price favourite as a result, with only 3 rivals to have to contend with here, but apparently only 1 rival according to the betting. Andrew, did you have an angle?
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Estrange, and she's at about 14 to 1 for the Arc, I think. And being by Night of Thunder, she's certainly bred to appreciate plenty of cut in the ground. And she got away with sort of a quickish surface last time out here, and hopefully they'll put plenty of water on. Because what you don't want to see is her being declared a non-runner on account of unsuitably quick ground, and we end up with about 10 on shot or 8 on shot or something with Scenic. I mean, Scenic's a horse I like as well. That's she really caught the eye with the way she travelled at Goodwood behind Shaha when the winner got first run. She reversed the form of that one at York. Seen her the last 2 wins. Well, you could argue that maybe York's where she's most effective, and she has yet to win on turf away from York. So that would be probably clutching at straws in terms of getting her beat for the forecast. Love Talk's a horse I tipped up in my column last time out because she was dropping in trip back to 7 furlongs on soft ground at Carlisle, having finished last in the 2 runs over middle distances so far this year. She's got loads of form over sort of 6 to 7 furlongs in the mud. I think the step back up to 1.5 miles here on fast ground is just a case of pot hunting. They get almost 7,000 quid. for finishing fourth. Now, of course, if Estrange was pulled out on the ground, all of a sudden she's guaranteed to pick up 13.5 grand. If she can beat a fellow 33 to 150 to one shot and Nuit, then she's going to get almost 30 grand. So although I do think Love Tour could win a race probably in the autumn in the mud, maybe
Yeah.
a listed company or a Class 2 fillies handicap at Newmarket or somewhere, I don't think she's going to trouble them here. So yeah, it's just Estrange for me. I think she's going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully we'll get to see a really dominant performance from her as well. But yeah, do watch out for a few of those angles then for the pot hunters in this race. And later on in the season, they might just have their day in the sun. The 3 o'clock at Sandown is Ballistic Coral Distaff for the 3-year-olds over a mile. I'm not going to lie, Dave. I was looking at this race and then I looked again and I looked a third time and I don't know. I don't know. Did you find it any easier to solve this one? Blue Bolt heading the way, but I just couldn't get carried away with this.
No, it's a hard one. It's another one of those races similar to like the first one, that the more you look at it, you're like, oh, that looks like a nice piece. But then you look at another piece of form and think, oh, but that doesn't look so good. It's very up and down, isn't it? Obviously, whenever Ryan Moore's riding anything, it catches the eye, doesn't it? For Cajole, for John and Fady Gosden, they teamed up in 2022, I think it was, to win the race, didn't they? Because I was looking at that previous trainers and things, but just the obvious ones, isn't it? It's just John Gosden and Haggis, they're winning the races. Andrew Baldwin does well in it as well. So it doesn't necessarily help anything when you look at those things. The one, though, that one that I'm going to end up siding with is probably, like, I don't want to say stupid to do it, because obviously I'm trying to like advise sensibly on this stuff, but is a horse that I'm willing to forgive last time out because everyone deserves a second chance, right? I think Blue Bolt, very good the last twice as well, like especially at the mile. I think Blue Bolt, Victory Queen are about the same sort of level, but obviously there's a big discrepancy in the price. Victory Queen slightly less exposed, but I think she could be on a steeper trajectory. Cajole, like I say, the combination of Ryan Moore and the Gosdens looks very tempting as well. But the one I'm going to forgive for last time out is Miss Tonnerre, who ran in that Musidora behind Whirl, and she was terrible, like really bad that day. I can't even really remember what happened in the market, but I feel like she took a bit of a walk, and then I felt there was some market confidence in her after, but she ran like the early parts of it where she was relatively weak in the market. I liked her more than anything for the fact that she ran so close to Desert Flower in that race at Doncaster. Like, they pitched her in big company, that May Hill Stakes, and then she ran after in Deauville and then was sort of exposed as maybe not being that level. Now, she has run in that Musidora and been beaten out of sight, and she's got 14 lengths basically tailed off. But they have now dropped their sights down to listed company, and she has had a little bit of a break in there. Kieran Schumacher takes the ride for the first time. So it could be one of these where I don't think it's necessarily a prep, even though they've been trying her in group company, that they're going to run her here, hope she runs well, and then they've got a bigger target, because this would be a big enough target for them to go and win with a horse that hasn't yet really shown her true colours in that sort of group level. But she has shown that she's got a bit about her, and I'd forgive her for the fact that that was their first run. There's the gap that they've had in between, and a bit of the market weakness would suggest that maybe they didn't expect her to fully show her true running. And as I say, with the break stuff that comes after it, sometimes it's by design, but sometimes it might just be that she was prepping in that race to go on to something else after, whether they were thinking of an Oaks or something like that with her, and everything didn't come out clean after the race. So I'm being very forgiving, because I look at Miss Tonnerre, who I do think is capable of running better than listed company. I think she could be like a group horse in here, but she's a top price 10 to 1 in here. We have got 9 runners, and I'm obviously a bit tempered in the fact that she was so bad at York and that Musidora that she tailed off. And I don't know, maybe there could be something amiss with her, but you trust they've got her sound now. 3 places up for grabs 10 to 1 feels like a much more attractive bet than looking at a horse like Blue Bolt, who deserves to be favourite, but is sort of short enough at 7 to 4 at the top of the market when you get the each way concession with Miss Tonnerre. So I'm keeping the faith. If she is back to some of her best, or she can continue the upward curve that I thought I saw from that May Hill Stakes last year, I reckon there's half a chance she absolutely slams these. Like, if there's a proper group horse in the race, could be her, but you have got to be forgiving, and I'm willing to be.
You are willing to be forgiving. There you go then. 10 to 1 about Miss Tonnerre in here to forgive her for last time out. But yeah, you are being compensated somewhat in the price and at 10 to 1. Andrew, there are a few horses in here who require forgiving. Miss Tonnerre, Bermuda Longtail, and both of those 2 fillies highly rated 99. Both rated a pound higher than our current favourite Blue Bolt, but of course she's got less offences to her name. She still needs to prove herself up to this level. I don't know. Could you get your head around it?
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, I mean, I can see where Dave's coming from with Miss Tonnerre, given how well she was backed ahead of that run against Whirl in the Musidora at York, which I think she was like 9 or 10 to 1 overnight into 7 to 2. Patient Tactics not ideal that day. I wonder if Patient Tactics is going to be a problem here as well, because we've often seen winners make all in this race, or at least race prominently. I mean, the one I was fascinated by is Sweet Francais, because she's by study of manner. Sire I often waffle on about, because they tend to do best when they hit the age of 4, and you make a good profit backing the sire progeny from 4 onwards. And her dam Francophilia didn't win until she was a 4-year-old. Now this one's already won. She's 2 from 2, as a 3-year-old. So I think she could be really good next year. So the fact that she's already won, say, already won twice latterly, when sort of impressively by 4.5 lengths, I'm just going to go with her, just because I'm a fan of the sire, fan of the dam, and she's an each way price, but no strong opinion. But yeah, Sweet Francais, I think she's going to be very, very good next year, and she's already heading in that direction.
That's really interesting. Like I say, she's still just a 3-year-old filly at this point, 2 from 2 in her career, 14th one in this. And if her pedigree is anything to go by, she's only going to get better. So yeah, Sweet Francais then for Andrew. Right, the 3:15 at Haydock is the Old Newton Cup handicap, 4-year-olds and over a mile, for very wide open contest, 5-1 the field, and you've got a billion horses to go at as well, Dave. So enjoy.
Yeah, make it stop is what it feels like. I want to do that Simpsons meme where it's just like, make them stop. But actually, there's one that I've got on my sort of watch list in here as a horse that I wanted to back next time out. I was kind of hoping they might lower their sights, but you've got a good horse, and you've got a horse that you think's well handicapped. Fair play for the trainers for going for a big pop, because Plage de Havre is no longer ridden by Oisin Murphy. That's not necessarily always a positive, because I do like Oisin as a jockey, but the last 2 starts he's been on him, he was eye-catching last time at York, waiting for room, and I don't know. I don't think Oisin gave him the best ride. I think he was waiting for him. He got caught in a bit of a pocket. Didn't actually find much after, but he was a little bit short of room before he then got short of room again. It was one of those that you have to, well, you can't really envy the jockeys their position when they're like trying to ride for a gap to come that doesn't come, because if they try to then switch and then the gap's opened, they've got bigger nerves than I've got to try and ride those races. But yeah, all things told, I would be willing to massively upgrade his performance last time. I thought he'd get a rise from the handicapper too, but he hasn't. He's left him on 92. The time before we pulled up under Oisin Murphy, which has nothing to do with him, there was obviously something amiss with the horse, but he did have a relatively quick turnaround after, so I don't know exactly what happened there. I don't think I've read any comments about it, nor would I care what the comments are. The horse pulled up, didn't he, and he's run well since. But he's 3 completed starts recently. He's put in an RPR of 97, 98 and 100. He's officially rated 92. I know that's all just opinion based, but they've been good runs. So he finished 3rd in that race at York, where he could have got closer. He was 2nd at Wolverhampton in another Class 2 handicap, where I thought he ran really well. He just maybe got beat by a better handicapped horse on the day. And then his race before, where he did win, he won easily. That was a Class 3, but it was a good RPR, like I say, 98, and he was off a £9 lower mark. I just think this horse has definitely got mileage in his mark of 92. Like I say, I probably would have preferred they went for an easier target than this, but it's worth 77 grand. He's relatively well fancied as well, like a bit short in the market than I thought it would be, given the standard of this race. But the more I look at the race in comparison to that last one at York, I think this is a weaker race than the last one, but it's worth twice as much money. So all that spun around. I wanted him to be in an easier race so I could have got more confidence in him. I think the trainers have been very smart to put him in this particular one. I think he'll be suited to Haydock. I think he's got those 3 completed runs in his last 4 starts that suggest he is better than his mark. You can get top price 7-1 about him. That's offering 5 places. Got one firm offering a 1/6 of the odds, 7 places. What universe do we live in? But he's 11-2 in that market. I just think he looks like a real solid horse to be filling up the frame. And if he gets a bit of a passage under PJ McDonald for the first time, I reckon he's got a good chance of winning this one. So let's just say he's a general 6-1 poke with 5 places up for grabs. That will do for me.
That will do then, yeah. Like you said, I mean, yeah, 6 of the odds with 7 places on offer. We've got, 16 runners in here? I mean, yeah, there's different ways to be playing this for sure. But like you say, kind of 6-1 general price, can see 7's top as well then in the Old Newton Cup. Andrew.
A tricky one, this. Yeah, Chillingham cost me a few quid last time, because this is a horse who, before he won at York last month, he hadn't won for over 2 years. The horses seemed to need soft ground. He often emptied out when after travelling well. He was always one to back pre-race each way and put into lay short in running. But last time, for whatever reason, I decided not to back him each way pre-race, just to lay him short in running. And needless to say, the first time advisory went on to win, albeit in an apprentice handicap contest. So. or was it finished second, promoted to third, because wasn't he? That was the one. So yeah, I mean, Chillingham is again sort of like prominent in the market, and interesting. He's also got a good draw as well, which the draw has been quite important in this race. Stall 4 or lower in the last 9 renewals, because we didn't have this race last year. You'd have found 5 of the 9 winners and made a good profit. Those stall 4 or lower horses who were raced in the last 4 weeks, profit of £31.50 to a £1 level stake, 5 winners from 25 bets. Now, last year there were 2 qualifiers. They finished first and second at 15 to 2 and 12 to 1. And say the year before there was one, say not last year, 2023, the last renewal. 2022, one qualifier, won at 10 to 1. Go back to 2021, 4 qualifiers, including the 14 to 1 winner and the 15 to 2 second. So I was looking at the draw here, and say Chillingham certainly qualifies on that angle, although he's ridden by Archie Young for the first time. It's a tricky ride, so perhaps not the ideal ride for an apprentice who's on for the first time. I don't think we've had an apprentice ride this winner from sort of 20 odd attempts in the last 10 years. Night Breeze for Ian Williams is quite interesting, having been supported recently. Tried to come from off the pace at Epsom last time behind the well-backed progressive Small Fry. Didn't do badly, finishing say 5th of 14, 16 in one shot that day. Yards going okay, so I thought I'll just play the draw angle here and go Night Breeze over sort of Chillingham's Solkeo.
Okay, so yeah, so looking at those 4 and lower draws as well. So okay, I was at 14 to 1.
Oh, we'll give another one I mentioned as well. Midnight Lion, who is a horse I dismissed in the Northumberland Vars, the consolation race for the plate last week, because he's a front runner. And I didn't want to back front runners at Newcastle last week because the headwind and because the track eats front runners live. What happened? Midnight Lion, normally a front runner, decides he's ridden patiently, allowing Sorolla, the front runner, to make all from Trifan, who was in second place throughout. So basically, the winner and second have swapped the leads throughout. Midnight Lion has done really well to finish 4th at 40 to 1 under a patient ride, racing keenly as a result, resenting those tactics. Now, although he's a lot better on the all-weather, 6 wins from 18 opposed to 1 from 11 on turf, beaten in the cellar the last time he raced on grass. So I thought it's not impossible that he runs some sort of race here from a lowish draw if they revert to prominent tactics. So yeah, Midnight Lion worth mention as well.
33 to 1 is the outsider of the field, Midnight Lion. Also, with that mention, he's drawn in stall 5 as well. So, like you say, low enough. But yeah, that's why whenever nowadays I use running style as the last trend to be looking at, because half the time they just completely throw it out the window anyway. So, God knows, it's just kind of like something to swing either way for me now, because yeah, there are law unto their own. These
it's as bad as trying to predict whether the jockeys are going to race at Royal Ascot.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Don't even try. Don't even try to understand it, because yeah, as soon as you do, well, no one really knows, to be honest. There you go. Hopefully, though, we will know the winner of the Group 1 Coral-Eclipse at Sandown. Comes up at 3.35, 3-year-olds and over 10 furlongs. Ombudsman, even money I can see as the top price now. Is that a fair price, Dave, or something you want to be siding with, against, whichever?
Well, yeah, I like him. I like him a lot in it. Just quickly to go back to the Haydock race, when Andrew's mentioned the draw, I put up Humble Spark last time, and Paul Moran never put him in the race, but he had a terrible draw last time. He's in that 3.15 as well at a monster price. So Midnight Lion, Humble Spark, Andrew's mentioned that Soul KO, Night Breeze as well. Perm them beauties up for the TriCast for small stakes if you want to get lucky. But back to your 130 RPR performance Ombudsman last time out. When we did our Royal Ascot preview, I was hoping that I was hoping we were going to see White Birch come over. I was aware that obviously with the fast ground, it probably wasn't going to happen, but he was touted to come here as well, wasn't he? And I said about Ombudsman that his bubble slightly burst at Sandown, didn't it, behind Almacam? But my word, was he impressive at Royal Ascot. I can't believe he went off at 7 to 1 in the end as well, but it's obviously easy to say in hindsight. But I know people will say that there was a bit of a pace collapse that day, but if you go back and watch his wins before that, basically watch every race other than the Sandown race, he looks like an absolute freak of a horse. I just think he is a bit of that. We've had some real big names that have won the Coral-Eclipse in the past, haven't we? I think he's just another one of those that's just going to get his name etched on this trophy. And the even money about him, I think, probably is generous. because I do respect Sosie. Delacroix, you'd have to put the whole line through what he did in the Derby, because he was beaten out of sight and he was well beaten for a long time. But the fact that Ryan Moore's kept the faith of him, like, you know, we know what happened with City of Troy last year, won a Derby and then came and won this race after. And I'm not saying they're exactly the same type horses, because I talked about Delacroix on the line in winter. He wasn't necessarily the first string to start with, but I can imagine there's people that are tempted to back him, because Corals, the sponsors, are offering fifth of the odds 3 places. You'd look at Delacroix, Ryan Moore's probably not going to get it wrong. Then you start to think to yourself, well, he probably could fill the frame, could be like a cheeky each way bet. But I think if you're just trying to find the winner in this race, that you'd be almost stupid to go against Ombudsman after what he did at Royal Ascot. I know it's a tight enough turnaround, but when I heard Thady Gosden talking on a well-known podcast earlier this week, he talked about the Sandown run at the start of the season. They knew they were carrying a penalty in there. It was probably a prep run for something. He talked about the race at Ascot as well, and he was almost just like, well, we ran him there because it was a prep run for the Eclipse. Like, this was the actual target, and he's just gone and done what he did at Royal Ascot before. So if that is true, and this has always been the plan, and this is the race that they're expecting him to maybe even peak in, I'm scared to think what he can do, because he still ran well at Sandown for all that he got beat. He was giving a bit of weight away to the winner, wasn't he, carrying a penalty? So I'm hoping that he is just the monster he looks like. I think even money about him is generous. I feel like there is some depth behind, so I can see why he is that. But I would probably say if you ran this race 10 times, I'd expect him to win more than half, so at least 4 of those. So he should be closer to 4 to 6. But like I say, the bookies are probably happy to try and take him on, because there is a bit of depth behind him. But Team Ombudsman, and let's hope he backs up what he did at Ascot.
Yeah, hopefully so then. As you say, 17-day turnaround for Ombudsman, proving that that was no fluke whatsoever, potentially then from Royal Ascot. Andrew, is he going to do that?
Oh, yeah, very possibly. This is a belter, isn't it? So, yeah, Ombudsman, extremely impressive. So, chinned here in the Big Day Gerard, but clearly came on for that when bolting up at Royal Ascot. Like you say, they went hard up front, and Los Angeles ruined his chance by going too hard. But it was still an impressive win, given the money for the runner-up and Mart and the third Seed Fire. He's probably going to take all the beating here. But you look at Sosie. Sosie's twice been beaten in October in France, but that in September or earlier, he's won 6 of his 7 starts, and he's going to be a sort of proper rival as well. He sort of makes some appeal around about 9-2, and Delacroix has gone off at 2-1 for the Derby, not handled the track. And if you scratch that run from him, he's probably not going to be a sort of 6 or 7-1 shot, whatever he is. Camille Pissarro I don't like, because I keep describing him as a her because of the name Camille. So that's good enough reason for me to strike a line through that one. Don't have a girl's name. Don't have a girl's name if you're a boy horse. That's the golden rule. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to be boring and go for Ombudsman. I'm just going to watch the race and enjoy it.
Yeah, really looking forward to the race all the same. And Ombudsman, where, as you can say, as Dave said there previously, yes, you can say maybe the pace that he had to aim at then saw him to such impressive effect, but the fact he was still able to win despite things going wrong for him. And I was very much team Anmar that day as well, and I'm not even sour about finishing second to Ombudsman, because I feel like he just should have won by further if he hadn't have got into the traffic troubles that he did. I thought Rolling Court was probably a bit overpriced, 10-1 to round off the forecast there. As we know, when he went to Royal Ascot, it was just not the plan whatsoever after missing the Derby and having to come back 10 days later and to peak again after not getting a run in the biggest race of them was never going to be an easy thing to do. So I actually don't think he ran that badly whatsoever. But yeah, he's been dismissed in the market somewhat there, seemingly as the second string then for Godolphin. Right, that rounds off the scheduled races for the ITV coverage. But Dave, I'll go back to you, please. Anything from anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you've teed this up nicely, mentioning Ruling Court for no reason other than the fact that he's a runner in the race. I joke, he did run well at Ascot considering all things. But the Lion in Winter's going over to France, over 7 furlongs on Sunday, isn't it? It's the 3:40 in Deauville. I love the Lion in Winter. I still can't forget what he did on his debut, and I still can't forget what he did in that Acomb too. And for all that the form maybe doesn't look as strong now as we were hoping it was going to be last season, his Dante run I thought was really good considering everything went wrong, even though I think the form of the Dante is push, but I thought he ran really well. And then obviously in the actual derby itself, obviously Ryan Moore wasn't riding him. Things haven't gone to plan from this season, but the fact they're now dropping him back to 7 furlongs, I don't think it's a desperate attempt just to run him in the sake of a race. I think they might have found the key with him. He's entitled to be fit by now, isn't he, after having those couple of runs? So I think he's going to be very interested in that race. It looks like it could be a little bit deep. There's quite a few names in there, so I don't know what sort of price he'd be, but I mean, if it's hard to say a backable price because it does depend on the price, doesn't it? But I feel like he's going to be, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 to 1 in a race like that, which would make me think I would like to get stuck into him when he's done the track record in a race like an Acomb. For all that it'll be softer ground over in France, I think the Lion and Winter can get back on the winning trail. At least I hope he can.
There you go. Then, yeah, you just want to see that from him, don't you? Because you don't want the wheels to start falling off for what looked a potential superstar of a horse as well. Andrew, anything from anywhere else?
Not from me. Not had a chance to look yet, but obviously check out my Saturday column, which should be available on GG at sort of around about mid-afternoon on Friday.
Nicely done. Right, Dave, your nap, please, for this weekend.
Am I allowed to put Estrange up? No, I'm joking. I mean, I could. Ombudsman, I feel like is the right one to do. I'll still go with Plage de Havre though. Like I said, I was hoping it was going to be an easier task. I think he's a knock in each way, about 6 to 1, but top price 7 to 1, isn't he? So Plage de Havre in the 3:15 at Haydock.
Okay, nicely done. Yeah, you've gone for a nice easy race there for your nap, so I respect it. Andrew, your nap, please.
I'll go Way of Stars in the 2:05 at Haydock, although I have also put up Polestar as a sort of another each way one in that race. I think Way of Stars, very impressive at Goodwood last time, did well against the Bias to finish 4th in that Doncaster race a couple of runs back.
Okay, nicely done. I was going to put up enough, and then I thought, nah.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go Ombudsman, and I thought, oh no. But even money is so tempting. So I'm just going to stick up 2 selections rather than naps. Yeah, Ombudsman. Obviously, I think he's going to take the world of beating. And I thought even money, I agree, is very fair. Or Greek order in the Coral Challenge handicap because of that Royal Hunt Cup trends angle that I'm hoping will come to the fore once again. Right, lads, that was a rattle through all of the races then on Saturday. So a big thank you to the pair of you for all of your hard work as always. A big thank you to you for watching. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.